There is a genre of movies that is considered so bad it's good. My question is, are there also video games that can be considered so bad it's good? I think there are, and here's one of my favorite examples. The year was Tekken 3 and Ocarina of Time. People were going to the theater to see Titanic multiple times a week. Brandy and Monica feuded over who the boy belonged to. And Bill Clinton was telling the nation about
that woman.
I was a kid who used money that should have gone to school lunch instead to buy an electronic gaming monthly magazine. I turned to a full-page advertisement for a new Nintendo 64 fighting game. My eyes immediately panned down to the phrase, "Collect all 200 items to build the most powerful fighting machine ever." Now at the time, I was a big fan of being able to level up and give people the business in Pokemon Red version. Starmie was handing L's to everybody.
Sit down, big fella.
But that one sentence sold me on the game, especially since the level up and fight your friends model was finally being applied to a fighting game. Flying Dragon, known in Japan as Haryu no Ken Twin, or Fist of the Flying Dragon Twin, was that fighting game. Published by Culture Brain and Natsumi, Flying Dragon is somewhat of a sequel, though the series has very few fighting games in it. Notable games in the series include Shanghai Kid in 1985, Flying Dragon: The Secret Scroll in 1989, and Super Ninja Boy in 1993. I'm not sure if the demand was low or the manufacturing goals weren't high enough, but I couldn't find this game anywhere when it was released. There was one let's call it a discount blockbuster in my area that had only one copy of this game that my friends and I took turns renting. Because of this, there was a cool, though at the time very frustrating, routine of someone renting the game, playing it to level up, and right before returning it, gathering everyone to test their newfound powers, and doing it all over again with someone else renting the game. It was a time of fierce competition in our little community, and it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong, the game is bad. The gameplay is slow, the combos don't provide much in terms of exploration, and a lot of the fighting is just clunky, especially in the super deformed mode that allows for the leveling up. The other, much more virtual fighter-like mode of the game is much faster pace and feels a lot better gameplay-wise. However, because there was no level up mechanic, my friends and I never really played this mode. It's a shame that the items and level up aspect of the game wasn't applied to this mode instead, because it does provide a superior fighting game experience. The controls of the game are odd. There's a punch button and a kick button, which is pretty self-explanatory. A special button, which was odd at the time, but a design choice that Super Smash Bros. Would later adopt about a year later. 2 item buttons, which allow you to access 2 equipped items, as well as a button for a super move called the Secret Buster. The shoulder buttons had one as a block button, and the other as a sidestep button if you were in the 3D mode of the game. Each character can gain experience and level up. The higher the character level, the more powerful the items that character can equip. Items that you equip can also gain experience and level up, and the higher the item's level, the more effective that item is. For example, a Dragon Claw raises the character's attack stat by 1. It also raises the character's attack stat by an additional 1 for every level that item has, to a maximum of 10. Meaning a fully leveled up Dragon Claw grants 11 to your attack stat. Healing items will also restore more health the higher the level of that item is. You heard me right. In this fighting game, every character has the ability to restore health mid-match. Characters can equip 1 offensive item, 1 defensive item, and 2 support items. The support items range from recovering health, gaining meter for your secret busters, teleporting your character, revealing your opponent's weak points, and straight up stealing health. One of the first legendary items our group discovered was able to do this. At the end of the arcade mode equivalent, you would receive an item. The better you did in the arcade, or by fulfilling certain tasks like beating everyone with a super, or not using your super at all, or getting perfects, or setting the time to a certain amount, doing these things could get you an even better item. Enter Ring of Genie. For the cost of 1 meter in your secret buster, out of a maximum of 9, the user can hit the opponent from anywhere on the screen, and whatever damage was done would be added to your health. Your opponent is playing keep away, hit him with Ring of Genie. Your opponent jumps in and you can't anti-air in time, hit him with Ring of Genie. No matter what the situation, hit him with Ring of Genie. It was as ridiculous as it was glorious. The game has a sequel, also released on the Nintendo 64. It was akin to what Super Street Fighter II was to Street Fighter II. Basically the same game, with some added items, supers, and characters. I wasn't able to play it, however, because it was only released in Japan. I suppose the roundabout 100,000 units sold worldwide wasn't enough for them to translate and ship the sequel to other countries. A cool thing I liked about the game is that there's a universal counter mechanic. Most games nowadays, if the combo is long enough, you just have to block and wait while you're in block stun until it's quote-unquote your turn. But in Flying Dragon, all of the combos have gaps which allow you to sneak in a counter if you know when that gap is coming up and which counter to use. Every character has a counter for punches by holding block, back, and punch, as well as a counter for kicks by holding block, back, and kick. If you're familiar with the combo your opponent is doing and your timing was right, you can shut down any continuous offense. But if you are incorrect or you didn't time it right, you would stop blocking in an attempt to counter and then get hit by the rest of the combo your opponent was doing. Similar to a combo breaker in Killer Instinct, using that knowledge to successfully stop an opponent was always extremely satisfying. There's a mechanic to hit your opponent while they're on the ground. You can unlock additional secret busters for your characters as you level them up. Stumble onto upgraded platinum enemies to fight against, each with their own unique abilities, as well as discover a secret unlockable boss character. There's a circuit mode that acts like the typical fighting game arcade ladder, a versus mode, team battle, shop where you can buy items with credits earned from the circuit mode, and a practice mode where you can try out attacks and combos, so there's a lot of good stuff in here to keep you busy. The story mode is nothing compared to the NetherRealm campaign modes we get now, but each character has some sort of motivation for fighting. In a nutshell, Suzaku wants to get revenge on the good guys for something, but he can't beat them all on his own. So he summons an even more powerful bad guy to help, but Suzaku can't control him. Because of this, everyone has to team up to defeat the even greater threat. Standard story that is spoon-fed to you in bits through character interactions before and after each fight. Each character has different dialogue depending on who they're fighting against. Mortal Kombat X perfected this, but Flying Dragon did it first, even if the dialogue in this game is far from award-winning writing. Reviews in video game magazines were not kind to Flying Dragon, and for good reason. They touch on how the game has an interesting concept, but with poor visuals, sound, and gameplay, the execution was lacking. Still, I find a lot of fond memories when I think about this game. Have you ever played Flying Dragon on the Nintendo 64? If so, who was your favorite character? I'd have to go with either Suzaku or Ryuhei, one of the two. Also, if there's a fighting game that you know is bad but you can't help loving anyway, let me know what that game is in the comments. If you enjoyed this, give me a like, and if you're into fighting game content, be sure to subscribe and check out the video on the screen right now. Until then, get Ring of Genie so you don't get beat up out there.